Good morning. How are we? Everyone? Are we good? Happy? Excited? Ready to go? Okay. I am well caffeinated, so we should be good to go. This is Become the CEO of Your Life. And I'm going to talk a little. Can you hear me? Did it stop? Okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, my background, and hopefully we can kind of all have a discussion so that we make good use of all of your valuable time and I don't have to listen to myself talk for 90 minutes straight. Okay, let's do the next slide. So this idea of kind of approaching your life like you would run a company is something that slowly developed over time. I have always been very kind of a loner on my own, independent. I can do everything, figure it out, and really derive a lot of confidence from an ability to problem solve. And if there's a obstacle in my way, to really negotiate and mediate and orchestrate my way through it. But as I got older, it became more and more evidence that it's not all up to me. Especially, it's something that everyone has to realize as they become an adult, that they are not an island. They are part of a community, and it takes a collective effort to help anyone achieve a goal or pursue an opportunity. And when you have a disability, there are a number of people who are very important to help make it happen for you. If you have, a goal of living on your own, going to college, getting a job, you can't do it all on your own. And you really have to develop skills to organize energy and get people on the same page who can really help make your life a reality and how you see your life. It can't really be achieved just solo. So when you're approaching any business, it's important to first create the vision for where you're headed, where you want to be, and then develop a team of people who have like-minded ideas, who really get excited about what you believe you can do and help make it happen for you, because it's always an exchange of effort. And then as you're moving toward your goal and moving forward, to not have this rigid view of this is how it's going to be, this is how it has to be, and when life presents some twists and turns, to be able to kind of sit back and think, okay, where are we at? Where do we go from here? Is this the direction I should be going, or how do I adapt to these new conditions in order to make the best life I can for myself? So those are kind of areas that we'll be moving through today. Let's do the next slide. So to start us off, I really like to watch Steve Jobs, like speeches, interviews, and I found this interview that he did, I believe in the 90s, where he was, I think at that time he had been fired from Apple, so he was going through his own kind of adapting his view of what's his life and what's his future. And he talks a little bit about this, developing a vision and how you see your life.
So the thing I would say is,
should we go back and then go forward? Maybe just leave it like that. Yeah.
so the thing I would say is, when you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it. That's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.
Okay, so I don't know, I'm first of all obsessed with like commencement speeches. I don't know if you all have watched any on YouTube, but Steve Jobs is like a really top-notch one at Stanford, I believe. So I really loved what you said there about not living according to what people tell you that your life is supposed to be. I know that growing up, I had this, like, I don't know, I was like 3 years old and I already was like ready to move out and like live on my own. And I didn't like it when people told me that I didn't know what was best, because I thought I knew everything. And I feel like as I got older, I became wiser and learned more and more that I know nothing. But I always had this like idea that I wanted to contribute to the world, that I thought I had so much to give. And I never really knew what that was going to look like. When I was little, I wanted to be a fashion designer, and I had so many different ideas from there. I think psychologist, prison warden. I really thought that would be cool to run a prison and kind of develop programs that show people everything that they have to give the world still, even in a place where they think that's it, this is the end. But it's not. You always have something to offer if you choose to act on that. So I grew up in a very small town in northern Illinois near Rockford. And I really benefited greatly from the community there. We had a special arrangement with our school district, my family and I, so I could be homeschooled part of the time and at school as much as possible. So I was always assigned a teacher at the school in the classroom, but officially I was homeschooled. So I would be there when I could, and I'd be at home when I needed to be. So that was a really unique thing for a school to offer a student, which was really huge for my development, to be able to access the classroom as much as possible, but not like tied to it. If I was sick and needed to be at home taking care of my health more. And so yeah, I also, have an older brother who also has a disability, and I think has kind of adopted that his life's purpose is to keep me humble. And so I have that to be grateful for. Yeah, and I think that what Steve Jobs was saying is just so crucial for so many people, because I know that going through school, high school, I was always wanting to be at the next phase. Like when I was in middle school, I was dying to be in high school. And once I got to high school, like a week later, I was like, I'm over this. Let's move on. And so all through high school, I was like researching colleges, universities, doing their virtual tours on the websites, picking out what major I could have at each institution, and figuring out where my future was going to be, but never really thinking, was this a reality? Because no one I knew with my disability, which is muscular dystrophy, I didn't really know anyone who was on that track. So it took a long time to really feel like, is this just me being stubborn, or is this something that could really happen? Does anyone have a similar experience of, like, you think your life is one thing and other people tell you it's different? Can you tell me about that?
I was always hard of hearing or deaf in one ear, but not the other ear. And I think probably the only person in my whole family who really understood that was my grandma. And so a lot of people would say, well, why can't you do this, or why don't you do this way? And it's like, because that way kind of doesn't work for me. I always have to be prepared because I never knew what I missed. So I lost jobs because maybe I didn't do what I was told, but I didn't know that I didn't do what I was told. I didn't know that they told me that. And so I would miss things. The other thing is I find that people become frustrated. People become frustrated with trying to communicate with me. And then a couple of years ago, I found out I have a brain tumor, so I'm losing the hearing in my good ear. And so through the rehabilitation, I was an accountant, but I have this awful time with communicating on the phone, and it frustrates me because I feel inferior because I don't get the details, and then I ask for people to try to communicate with me in writing or different things, but you do have to be stubborn, and so sometimes I feel that same way where I feel like, am I realistically fighting something I should be, or maybe I should be looking at something else? And so I'm thinking of maybe starting my own business so I can run the ship, I guess, rather than trying to fight with people doing it their way, whereas do something I can make the rules.
Yes. And a lot of times that's the case where a limitation can kind of launch you into a new opportunity if you're open to finding it. Does anyone else have a story about how other people may or may not impose a limitation based on how they see you?
I have just a thought. For my disability, I was injured in a horseback riding accident, so I'm paralyzed from my neck down. And after my accident, my brain is still the same, and I still am the same person I was before my accident. So I go about doing things like I always did, and other people kind of look at me like, you can't do that, you can't go to work or do the same job as you used to. And it's like, well, yeah, you can. I just have to find a different way to do it. And in that way, that's what I've done, is find different ways to do very similar things. You just have to find the people that are willing to help you, or like you have said, Anna, to reach out to people in your community. So that has worked for me. But it is true that my head operates the same way as it always did, even though my body is doing something different, and that's okay.
Yes, definitely. Do you have something, Jessica?
Growing up, my brother and we both have physical disabilities. We're twins. And my family kind of always, I think, thought that we were going to settle for subpar lives and not go after everything the maybe typical non-disabled individual would do. And we both moved out of the house at 18 and went on to college and grad school. And I think my parents didn't expect any of that to even occur, so.
It's really something that we can all relate to also. Yeah, I think, and it does kind of remind me of a situation I have. Oh, go ahead.
Well, hello, my name's Christopher. I'm dyslexic and have Asperger's. I just really want to understand people. That's all I really wanted to do, because people have always taken time to understand me. So I believe that's in my way. Simply, it's just human nature is to understand, and peers and my mentors and my family see it as something much greater. And I don't see it anything more than I see it. So it's kind of vice versa of what you want me to do. But I see it as something very little, but others see it as very big. And I don't know. I thought that was worthwhile to share.
Yeah. And you are the one who knows you the best. So you see yourself with a lot of different qualities and aspects, and you know that something that might be considered a disability is one part of your experience, and that's not the whole picture. So it's hard for some people to understand sometimes. And it's interesting how other people's perceptions of yourself can have such an impact. I have 24-hour nurses, so I'm really fortunate to have support all the time. And I remember a few years ago, I was using I had like a lift in my apartment at the time, and I was transferring from my chair to my bed, and this nurse who, she was very like lovely, and she was trying to be compassionate, but she was making some comment about like, oh Anna, this must be so horrible for you to have to do this every day. And like, I didn't know how to like not just give a snotty answer, so I didn't say anything at the time. But I was thinking, like, it's really unfortunate for someone in that profession to like kind of think that they're being compassionate or empathetic, but actually I'm thinking, well, this is just how I do it. This is how I get from point A to point B. It's not good or bad or anything. It's just how it is. So having someone on the outside make this like judgment about, oh my gosh, this must be so horrible, can kind of, it can have an effect on a person when they hear that all the time, like, oh, well maybe I should think that this is really horrible. Like, I didn't have a feeling like that before, but now apparently this is really sad. But it's not. It's just motorized and frustrating when the battery runs out and then I'm stuck hanging in the air. That's annoying, but otherwise it's fine. So let's go to the next slide. So as I was saying before, I've definitely had a long journey, which I'm still on, of figuring out who I am and what I have to offer to the world. But it's always been consistent that I see myself and my life that I want to live independently, and that is always my goal, to have a place of my own and be kind of in charge of that space, and also to have a job. So that's my vision for my life. Let's go to the next one. And I know a lot of people who are my age and have not decided to live on their own. And I also know that there's a lot of research that shows that if you have a disability, you're definitely more vulnerable. And so living on your own can be a risk, and a risk that you have to be very aware of. So when I was in college, I did community college for 3 years. I finished my associate's degree, and then I transferred to 4-year school, and intentionally decided to go to school fairly close to where I'm from, which is Northern Illinois University, Huskies. And so it's like 40 minutes from Byron, and it really allowed me to kind of step out, but not too far out. And my brother also attended at the same time, so that was a good opportunity, because then our mom was able to go with us. So we did a full year in the dorms first, my mom, my brother, and I, living in a suite. So I've always thought that that's kind of a setup for a really good sitcom in my future. And that was fun. But then when I was finishing my degree, I was really panicked about, like, what's next? Where am I headed? What's happening? Where am I going? And decided to take the next step. So I moved to Madison. And yeah, you definitely have to consider all the factors when you make a big step like that. And what if something goes wrong? And how are you going to plan for the worst while also hoping for the best? Does anyone have a story about a big decision where they had to, like, really plan out every step of the way? Yeah?
So I plan on, so in Germany, no, not in Germany. So like in February, I plan on going to Germany for the first time. I never left the country before, so
Cool.
it's kind of a big decision for
Very
me.
cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
How long are you going to be there?
Till my birthday,
Wow.
which is in June.
Okay. Nice.
So
So you're planning out that trip?
yeah, I'm planning out the whole entire trip. So it's a lot of steps I need to take. So it's a really big decision to me.
And you're moving ahead, even though it's a kind of a risk.
It's like no, I know no one that lives out there or anything. I'm just going out there by myself and just exploring on my own. So that's really all.
Yeah, and you wouldn't want to not pursue that opportunity just because, you know, it's maybe a little bit daunting, but it's important to know ahead of time, like, what things are risks and how do I plan for any complications along the way. Are you going with people?
Yeah, it's an exchange program. I'll be an exchange student. So
Cool.
that's going to be extremely exciting. I'll be there with like 50 other students from the States. But I won't be staying with any of them. I'll be staying on my own in a residence hall or dormitory. So, yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Do you speak German?
No, that's
Uh-oh.
I plan on learning German when I get there.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm
You
fluent.
might
when I
want to
get
know,
back.
like, a few words, like,
Yeah,
where's the bathroom?
I have a little travel booklet with me. It has a little. I have tabs in it, so I know what to say at right moment. So
Yeah.
airport
That's-
things to say or whatever.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So yeah.
Does anyone else have anything they would like to share?
Well, I guess I have one more thing. When I first wanted to live on my own and get my first apartment, that was a while ago, but I remember that I needed to plan out a lot of things, like the caregivers I needed and when they would be there for me, because for me, if I don't have somebody that's going to come get me up in the morning, that would be a pretty big situation for me to be laying there and nobody shows up.
Yeah.
So I had to make sure that I have the people that I can trust and the people that will be there for me in the morning and throughout the day. And at that time, I had my first job. So that was also exciting. So I had to have all those things in place before I took on that new challenge in my life. And
Yeah.
that was pretty exciting.
It's very exciting and definitely something I can relate to the idea of being on your own, living alone, and what if someone doesn't show up and then I'm stuck? Or you make someone mad and then they walk out or something.
Yes.
It's also, so when I was living alone for a while, I would talk to my family quite often on the phone, and they always felt most comfortable when I just like have the phone on speakerphone in the room, and like, you know, we weren't always even talking, so I'd be like, guys, like, let's hang up the phone. And they're like, no, we're fine, just put it on the side. But then like I'd be talking to other people, and then my brother would be like, wait, what's going on? What are you talking about? What happened today? You're being evicted? No. Things that you don't want your family to hear. So that's always fun. Yeah, but I was really fortunate because at the same time that I decided I was going to move to Madison, I have a cousin who's a nurse, and she was kind of in a transition phase in her life at that time as well, and was looking for a job and having kind of a hard time getting back into the field after some time away traveling and whatnot. And so it just worked out perfectly that she moved near Madison as well, and she was my first case manager for the first 2 years I was in Madison. So that alone was like an enormous advantage for me to be able to make that jump and feel confident that no matter who else was on my team, that Trista would be around, like in and out periodically, and would be aware of like what's going on, and if I have like bruises all over my body or something like that, I should be like, how you doing? What's going on? Everything okay? So that was really comforting, because before I moved, there was someone else who I thought I would have as my case manager, because she was very experienced in the field, but I did not know her at all, and so I had some major like concerns about who is this person, do they have my best interest, and was really relieved when my cousin was able to step in, and I said, okay, now I feel like no matter what, like someone I know has my best interests in mind, and I can feel a little bit more confident about taking this step forward. Let's go to the next one. So a few factors that kind of go through my mind as I move forward with my vision for my life. Like I said, I really kind of thrive best when I have kind of some space to call my own and come home and reflect on the day and kind of plan for the next one and decompress. And I really feel like I'm at my best when I'm contributing and having some independence in terms of how I go about my day and being able to come and go and not have to like explain to 10 different people what I'm up to. What's the next? So, and then this is like the tackiest looking graphic you can come up with, but it gets the point across that I really view currency to feed my addiction to coffee. So any like $5 I come across, I think, okay, that's one more latte in my future. And that definitely adds to my interest in having a job and being able to have my own money, spend it how I see fit, and know that I don't have to explain to someone that coffee makes me a more pleasant person to be around. So it's in the interest of everyone to add to that situation. So for other working people in the room, what is an advantage to having a job and being able to make your own money? Does anybody have a job in the room? What do you do?
I live in the city.
Yeah?
I work for the city of Smithfish, South Dakota.
Oh, cool.
And we drove all the way from where I live
Yeah?
to Chamberlain, and from Chamberlain to here.
That's awesome. So you make your own money. And what do you like to spend it on?
I like to spend it on, let's see, I go to Taco Bell on the weekends
Yes.
and have lunch there.
What's your favorite thing on the menu?
The burritos.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
So
I
money
love burritos,
equals
yes.
burritos. I like it. What do you spend your money on? You have a job?
Yes, I work at the headwaters in Ryander.
Okay, what do you do there?
Well, they have me work on the shredder, insert the papers, just different jobs.
You like it?
Yeah, it's going good.
What do you like about it?
Well, they taste me some different things about it.
Okay. And you make your own money, and how do you like to spend your days making money?
Well, sometimes when I make money, I hang on to it, in case I like to go shopping and stuff.
Smart. Hang on to it.
Yep.
Teach me the ways.
Yep.
Okay. You're a saver. That's
Yep.
important. Do you have a wife?
Nope, not
That
yet,
would
but
be
I'm working
really-
on it.
Yeah. I think that's a good step in the right direction. Saving money is attractive. So,
Yep.
excellent. Okay, let's do the next slide. Oprah, let's get some wisdom.
Okay, we're here in life class again after last night, knowing when you know better, you do better. We're ready to move on to what I think is another powerful lesson that I started to get when I was a really young girl, having been raised by my grandmother, and then at 6 years old being separated from my grandmother, being moved to Milwaukee and suddenly in a foreign environment for myself. I remember walking into that new space and recognizing that in many ways I was alone, which is a terrible feeling if you're 6 years old. But I have always had the deep understanding for myself that if anything was going to move forward in my life, that I was going to have to be responsible for making that happen. And I know that to be true now and can articulate it as you are responsible for your life. And if you're sitting around waiting on somebody to save you, to fix you, to even help you, you are wasting your time, because only you have the power to take responsibility to move your life forward. And the sooner you get that, the sooner your life gets into gear. This is what I know from doing 25 years and thousands of interviews on The Oprah Show. It does not matter where you come from. I have seen people come out of the desert, walk across the desert, being born in the most dire of circumstances. Doesn't matter what your mama did, whether she did or had a PhD or no D. What matters is now, this moment, and your willingness to see this moment for what it is, accept it, forgive the past, take responsibility, and move forward.
Whoa. Okay, so I always feel smarter when I watch Oprah. I don't know about anybody else. And I feel like what she's saying is so true, but you also have to kind of look at it from a full perspective, because you really have to take responsibility for yourself if you want something to happen. You can't just hope that other people will take that challenge on for you. But at the same time, as I was preparing for this and watching lots of videos, I mean, there was one video with Steve Jobs where he talked about one of the keys to his success was to be able to ask for help from others. And I think that it's important to kind of, I have a lifelong battle with technology, and technology is winning every time. But anyway, I feel like, so Steve Jobs was talking in one video about how he feels like it helps him in a lot of ways to step out of his comfort zone, talk to someone, pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm Steve Jobs, I'm really interested in what you're doing. And he really felt like, for the most part, if you do that, people are willing to do what they can to help you move forward. So in his mind, asking for help is one way to take action, and it's not really the same as just expecting other people to make something happen for you. I don't know. What do we think about that? In the back, anybody? Do we think that, I don't know, is there like a time in anyone's life where they had to ask other people for help, or really stick to an idea that they were moving towards?
Hi, I have the honor of being Anna's mom, so I'm excited to be here. But I was just thinking of when we were trying to go to community college and the van died. And so I called friends and I said, can we borrow your van? Can we borrow your van? Joel and Anna have to get to college, and we have classes on Monday and Tuesday this week. And so we borrowed vans for quite some time, and then they decided maybe that wasn't the safest way for us to get them to school. So we had a fundraiser. The whole community got together and had a fundraiser, and we got the van that's still with them now, as far as it made it through the rest of that associate's degree, all of undergrad, and into getting her moved to Madison for her grad school degree. And that's, I mean, I know she knows, I mean, we can't be an island. We can't do this all ourselves. We try and we want to do as much of ourselves because people think when you have a disability that you're soaking the system, you're trying to get all the money you can, and that you just want to be taken care of, but that's not the case. It's not the case. We want to do as much for ourselves as we can, but we can't do it by ourselves. I mean, we have to let people know what our needs are, and at that point it was a van. We couldn't move forward with either of their plans until we got that step taken care of, and then it's been a lifesaver. We can fit every piece of equipment we have in the van, and it has gotten us where we need to go. So determination of getting your goals met, like Anna is so determined to get where she's going, and then just reaching out when we need to, but also trying to be as independent as we can.
Because I got diagnosed on June 11th, and then 3 weeks later I went back for radiation, and then a month later I had a cochlear implant, and then I had a whole month where I didn't hear anything. And I was living in Grand Marais, Minnesota, driving down to Mayo, and I'm going by myself, and I had got this DVR appointment set up on my way, and picking up some equipment because you could only borrow like the equipment for a month to try it out. So I was trying to try out an iPad with a dictation program, so if someone spoke to it, it would put the text to me so I could read what they were saying. And so I got this appointment at 1 o'clock to meet with this DVR person, plus I had to do blood work at the hospital, and I had my service dog with me, and I can't hear anything. And my service dog woke me up in the middle of the night, and I'm in this motel, and I have stayed there many times, and this motel was like notorious for the door wouldn't shut. It had a lot of condensation, and I can't hear when the door shuts, even with all my equipment working, and let alone when I didn't have any. And so I didn't fill my car up with gas the day before because I thought I had time to do it the next day. And my dog woke me up in the middle of the night. And he's a great dog, but sometimes I don't listen to him because I think I'm smarter than him. And I couldn't figure out why he was up, and so I thought I took him out and outside, and the door, when I went to go out, the door hadn't been shut, and when I came back, it hadn't been shut, and somebody had robbed my motel room. And the joke was kind of on them because they took all my pills, which was like estrogen, some cholesterol medication, some blood pressure medication, and whatever, no like Oxycontin or whatever. There was nothing they were going to get a buzz off of. Nothing with even really good side effects. So I'm in this motel and can't hear, and my purse and my pills were taken. I have no money, empty car gas, and I had to get myself out of that situation. So my son-in-law was working at a McDonald's at the time overnight, so I'm calling and calling and calling, but he normally wouldn't answer the phone, but after I kept calling and calling it, he finally did. And I explained to him what happened because this hotel was owned by a management company that owns a hotel my daughter works at, to get her manager to call and communicate for me what had happened. And they still didn't call the police. And finally I'm like, are the police coming? It's like 3 in the morning, and I'm all looking around the garbages hoping they threw my purse in it. My passport and everything was in there. I mean, I lost everything. And I can't communicate. I can't even show somebody who I am. So I had to ask for a lot of help. The police officer helped me. I've managed to get my credit cards canceled. I posted it on Facebook. I had an outpouring of people that were like willing to bring me money, wire me money, but I had no ID to get it. and all these different solutions. And so I made it to Rochester, and even my doctors offered to give me money. And I said, well, that is really a good exchange. I come here and you pay me for that too. As well, I really like this. But I mean, it's amazing. When you're independent and you're stubborn, and you're so hard set on you're going to do something on your own, and something like that happens, and you really have to rely on the network that you have, it makes you realize that when you ask for the help, you give other people the opportunity to feel good themselves. And it was very hard for me to understand that. You know, it's always think of how you feel when you give a gift at Christmas and you watch somebody open it and they say, oh, that's what they always wanted. And all those people that helped me, I mean, I stopped in Forest Lake, Minnesota. A friend of mine gave me estrogen. They told me I couldn't get my pills refilled. They got the pharmacist at Rochester got a hold of the billing department. They managed to get me my medications refilled. I mean, there was so many people that helped. Somebody was like, oh, I can give you $20. I got a check for $100 later. I was able to pay everybody back, no problem, because I have money at home in my freezer. But I just had no way to get where I was going and no way to communicate. Even the ladies at the gas station, when I was looking through the dumpsters, hoping they threw my purse in it after they took the money, they gave me money for parking so I could go get my blood work done. And later on, a couple months later, I had gone and thanked everyone, and they were so happy. So when you show your gratitude, you get to act. It's so rewarding to see that they felt good about themselves to help you too. You know, and when we take that from people when we're stubborn and independent and don't let anybody help you. So I kind of learned from that. I'm not as hard-headed about asking for help when I need it. I still am kind of on something. So
That's so true, but even in addition to the fact that, you know, that all of your family and friends felt good about helping you when you needed it, it also adds to making you closer to those people, where when we really like push ahead and try to do things all by ourselves and prove how awesome we are, like no one's there. And sometimes you have these moments where you're forced to kind of give someone a call and say, hey, can I use your van? And it forces you to talk to people and reconnect to those you might not have otherwise made a time for unless you were in that situation. So, yeah, classic Gouker moment. We were driving a friend to the airport and our van died mid-semester, and we lived like 40 minutes from the community college that my brother and I would go to. So, yeah, that was a good time. Okay, did I talk about this? I don't think that I did. So, yeah, I think that as I was trying to like make a plan for my move to Madison, it really makes you aware of all the pieces that you need to figure out, all of the energy that you have to go kind of tap into and lead. It really forces you to be a leader, to harness that energy in a positive direction, and to build, in my case, a schedule of caregivers. And like, I mean, for instance, when I started going to Northern Illinois University after community college, so my family moved to DeKalb, and we were in the dorm room with my cousin Trista, interestingly enough. And so she is like a nut about Excel spreadsheets. So we had 27 student class schedules printed out and taped to our dorm room wall, all people that were interested in working for us as personal assistants. But you know, they all have their own class schedules and their own like requirements of, you know, this person can do 5 hours a week, or this person wants 25 hours a week. And so, Anna, if you have class over here till 3, so-and-so gets done with class at 2:45, and they can meet you there and then escort you home till 5, and then so-and-so be there at 5 until 9, but oh my gosh. So that was quite the operation. We had probably like 100 different people rotate through over our 3 years in DeKalb, and you really have to look at every week as like piece by piece. Where do we have a gap? How can we figure this out? Who can we get in touch with? Maybe they have a couple hours available. Let's fill that gap and move forward. And then on top of that, you have to like, I had to do my own homework and whatever. So that whole situation aside can be, I mean, alone can be very overwhelming and cause you to think, okay, is this the right vision for my life? Living and depending on 27 college students who don't really all need a job, but just like need some drinking money and don't really feel the need to show up every day. And that can cause you to question, is this the right path? But somehow, in my experience, things have worked out over and over and over, even when you're stranded on the side of the road because the van broke down and you're like, what's going on? What's happening here? Okay, let's move forward. And one way to combat the overwhelming feeling is just to break it down as much as possible. You need caregivers, transportation, and to make it as manageable as you can, knowing when to delegate if you have that ability to like have great people around you to say, can you talk to this person and maybe mediate this situation that's going on. And yeah, I've learned that delegating is really something, one of my newest things that I've been able to do. Not something that I've been very good at historically. And breaking it down, for me, it's having a reliable group of people who all want good things for me and will give their best effort every day, and also having reliable equipment, which is dicey. So for me, it's a motorized wheelchair, a motorized lift, a ceiling lift, and all the different pieces that are required that you have to maintain and be finding what works for you. That's kind of how I look at all the ingredients of what I need to achieve my vision of living independently and being able to have a job where I'm able to contribute and offer my skills. Let's do the next slide. So this idea of developing a team. I think becoming a leader is a skill that everyone can acquire, but it takes time for all of us to know when to give praise and to take the time to tell people, like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for cleaning that up or picking that up or putting that back where it goes, because otherwise I would have spent 45 minutes trying to find that thing tomorrow morning. Really like taking time and finding the right people is so important. Let's do the next slide. Yes. As CEO, financial manager, and human resources of Team Anna, there are a lot of duties required, and like I said before, you have to kind of be the one to make the vision, but also over time it just became so clear to me that I have these different hats, and maybe eventually I'll be able to delegate more and more, but I have to make sure that timesheets are signed and in for personal assistance, and that my care plan is updated for the nurses so that there's no glitch in the paperwork, and that their funding is stable and in place, because that means that I have people who will be more and more likely to want to show up for work to help me live my life. And then human resources, that's a whole complicated part of leading my life, is knowing when and who to hire, who is the right fit and personality for what I'm looking for. Someone who is optimistic and has a positive energy is really important to me. And when things get complicated, knowing when to say, okay, maybe this isn't the right fit for both of us, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that anyone needs to be mad at anyone. It's just kind of a reality that there are some signs that we need to rethink this arrangement, and, you know, do you really want to be here? Are you sure? That's important to not ignore, and it's something that I've learned from some experiences in my life, that when you let a situation move on and go forward without addressing some red flags. You're not doing anyone any favors. So it's a complicated skill to learn to be the leader of your life, but definitely something that everyone can do. Does anyone here have caregivers or staff that they depend on to drive them places? And have any of you experienced like a situation where you had to have an uncomfortable conversation, and how did you handle that? Do you have a story? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Do you have a variety of people that work for you? And how do you handle that situation where other people might view you as the recipient, the client, but you also have to know when to assert yourself and say, okay, I'm kind of in charge of my life and I need to talk to you about what's happening here.
I've had several caregivers that have come in and sort of told me what to do, and they found out that I don't put up with it.
So what do you do?
We have a discussion the first time, and then after the second time it happens, they're no longer there.
And how does someone else make the call, the phone call, or?
I do all of it.
Yeah?
I do every function that you've got listed up there.
Yeah? So what have you learned that works well when you have to kind of address a problem?
I've at the beginning of when we hire people, we tell them this is the expectation, this is what we want to accomplish, and if they don't fit into it, we have a discussion with them, and we ask them, nicely to leave if it don't work.
Yeah.
Because there's no other way to do it, because people are people. You got to treat them like people.
Yeah.
I have a background in business, and so I treat people the way they should be treated, or at least they expect to be treated.
Yeah. And especially when you're thinking about business and kind of laying out a working relationship, it's essential to be clear about your expectations of that person. And I really try in the interview process and in training to explain exactly what is expected of the person. But there are some things you can't control. You can't really control like how much they're listening when you're explaining your expectations and how they're interpreting what you're saying. Most recently, I had a college student who was like the niece of a friend of the family. So, we were really excited to have her, and she's going to college near where I live now, and she said she could do like one night a week during the night. And since she's a student and, her wage is not as high as a nurse would be, I told her, you can nap or sleep while I'm sleeping during the night. There's always a few things that need to be done, but then you can get a little bit of sleep until I'm ready to get up and get ready for work. But I think that when I said sleep, she stopped listening after that. Like, all she heard was, you can sleep when you're here. And so, she's not really one for caffeine or drinking coffee, and I think she is an athlete and is very regimented about her own routine and lifestyle. So she was really confused, like, she showed up the first shift and had like a bag and pajamas and like a cushion and pillows with her, and was like ready to curl up for the night. And when she came for 12 hours, I think she really thought she was going to get like 8 or 9 hours of sleep or something. So I saw her come in and she had all these things with her, and I was like, oh boy, here we go. So it was really cute. She's really young, and she's like 18 or 19, and I think just hasn't really had a job. I think school has been her job mostly, and also her athletic scholarship. So yeah, after 2 or 3 weeks, I got an email where she was like, you know, Anna, if I'm not going to get more sleep, I really can't keep coming. So I was like, all right, that was kind of expected. I knew that was coming, and I really was like frustrated because I felt like I was going above and beyond and making sure she could get a little bit of sleep, and also making sure that certain things were in place for her financially to make it worthwhile for her to come and help me out once a week. But really, she did not have the expectation that I did of what she would be doing when she was at my home, and so we were just not on the same page, and that's okay. And so we had to kind of address it and move forward. Let's do the next one. So I talked before about the complexity of scheduling and hiring. And yeah, I think everyone needs to learn their own style of leading. Some people are very direct, and other people have a more laid back, kind of listening way of relating to people. Like in an interview, I tend to have like the whole thing, the whole spiel, like I can get it done in 20 minutes. Let's get done and out the door, because really I feel like I know what I need to say to communicate to someone, my routine, and what I need. But also I really rely most on being able to read someone's vibe, and that's kind of how I make my decision. I feel like you don't really ever truly know what someone's work ethic is going to be until they get in the door and you can see how they operate on a day-to-day basis. But like I said, I have an older brother, and he has a very different approach to the interview process, and I get so frustrated when I have to sit through his interviews, because it will go on for an hour and a half easy, because he just believes in like getting them talking until they start saying incriminating things that they can like that he can use to make his decision later. And he definitely gets some juicy details, and I'm like, how in the world did that come up in the interview? Like, why did she tell you that in the first place? Like, I don't know. I just sit there and listen and let them talk, and usually people start saying things that they shouldn't be saying, and I just keep listening and asking more questions, and if someone doesn't walk out, it just works. So that's his approach. But I think that he has the right mindset in a lot of ways where I can be kind of focused in what I'm doing. My brother Joel really gets to know people, and he learns the dirty details about each person, and in my opinion, probably too much. But he knows the people that work for him, where I've had situations in my years that, I hear through the grapevine that someone is complaining about me or said certain things about me to another caregiver. I'm like, I thought we had a great day together. Like, I had no idea that she was sitting there fuming all morning, where I thought we were having a lovely time. So it's really good to check in and kind of take the time to really make sure that you and the person that you're depending on know each other well and are on the same page. Does anybody have any stories like that, where you were kind of unaware that someone you were depending on maybe wasn't on the same page as you?
I do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm right with you with the comment that you just made. The comment you just made about you thought you had a really good relationship with one of your caregivers. I had that same exact situation where this caregiver, and she was with me for a long time, and I thought we were really good together, almost, probably. There are times when you get to almost be friends with your caregivers because they have to do so much for you in very personal things that you end up talking a lot and getting to know them, and it was great. And then suddenly I was in the hospital for a few days, and I expected her to be there the next day, and it was one of those mornings. I'm laying in bed, and the time passed. She was supposed to be there at 8 o'clock, and then it came to be 8:15, and I called her, and it was 8:30, and it went on to 9 o'clock, and I'm like, well, where is she? Well, she was a no call, no show, never called me again. I still, to this day, I do not know what happened to this caregiver, and it was like, here all this time, I thought everything was so great. So it really hit me in the face, that particular caregiver, that it was amazing that what happened, that she, I don't know, I hope everything's okay with her, of course, but it was exactly, I was totally, I don't even have words, totally dumbfounded. Anyway, I totally understand.
Yeah, and that can really hit you hard when you are struck with a reality that you didn't see coming. And I know I've had that happen numerous times, and it really affected my confidence in being able to read people. And having a psychology background, I thought that, I was a pretty good, person to, read someone's personality, but you have to learn how to understand people's motivations, what makes them work harder, and what's more of a deterrent, and you have to adapt to those facets of each person, because one person might really appreciate when you're communicating, explaining, listen, go very well, let's start again tomorrow, where another person might shut down at that point and just not be able to move forward, because you said that like they needed to try something differently. So it can be a very delicate situation where depending on people for such essential tasks like getting you out of bed and taking you to the bathroom, like you don't want to be stuck without someone when you are surprised by them disappearing, like you said. And then, yeah, I definitely am a big believer in every person has their own strengths and limitations, and I set a schedule with caregivers, but as I get to know someone, I definitely try to build my agenda for each day based on who I'm going to be with and if they are good at getting me up and out the door and driving my van and getting me to meetings and appointments, or if they're really good at like keeping me organized and using the computer and making sure that all of my paperwork is in order and where it needs to be. So I do my best to build off of that knowledge and use my time wisely and be aware of what each person is good at and how I should plan my day accordingly. Let's do the next slide. I have, trying to think, yeah, it can be difficult to create incentives for someone to be working on your team when you don't have control over how much they're earning in that job, and how do you make it worth their while and show them your appreciation when you don't have a way to like give them a bonus or a raise when they show that they are extremely valuable to you. So I don't know, there's different ways you can do it, but I try to be flexible in scheduling as much as I can be, and like I said before, praise when it is needed, for sure, and take that time. Let's do the next slide. Oh my gosh, how many slides are left? I thought I was almost done. Let's just like breeze through this. So like I said, just adapting to what is happening in your life and not being fixed on one idea with so much detail, and this is what my life should look like and I should be in this job. I know a lot of people in college who thought they knew exactly what they're going to be when they graduated, but had such a hard time in those classes and had a hard time passing those classes and just refused to like think, okay, maybe this isn't the right path for me. So you want to be aware of what the world is telling you about your strengths and limitations and learn from that knowledge when you're moving forward. Next slide. Planning, planning, planning. Yes. And not beating yourself up when you overlook something, a detail, just being aware that this is a learning process, and in order to move forward, you have to step out of your comfort zone, and things might not always go according to plan every single time. Because when you're so stuck in the idea that I'm great and everything's going to be great and we're going to do this and everything's going to be awesome all the time, then you're going to be defeated when there's a hiccup and you have to realize that you messed up. So don't let that shut you down, and take time to celebrate each success, because you really have to hang on to that when it happens. Next. Remain focused, but take a step back. Don't give up. Everything I just said. Blah, blah, blah. Next. Let's do another one. This is my friend Annie. I was talking kind of in the beginning about the fact that I didn't know anyone growing up who was moving out on their own who also had muscular dystrophy. And then I met Annie, and she was just an unstoppable force. And she was a year older than me, and I really benefited from knowing her. And she spoke at summer camp one year and talked about going to college and moving out on her own. And everything she did was like a super speed, where I took so long in college. It felt like I was never gonna finish. And she did college in 3 years, and I just felt like she was just always like one step ahead. And I think that feeling of competitiveness was good for me in a lot of ways, but also at least she made me feel like my vision was possible. My life was possible. Let's do the next one. This is it. I just thought this was a really great quote. It's up to you to define your own brand of leadership and your own version of success. So just bringing it back around to what Steve Jobs was saying about creating your own idea of what your life should look like, and being brave enough to mold and affect the world around you, because you might not always fit the mold that other people think that you should be in. It's so important. Okay, that's it.